All right, we're going to talk about using those formulas we discussed in the first video. We're going to talk specifically about finding slope and rate of change. Remember, you can pause this video at any point to write down examples if you want to. Here's the formulas we talked about in the first video. We're going to find slope in three different ways. First of all, they may just actually straight up give you what the rise is and what the run is. If that happens, you can just right away put it into the fraction. So I would say 10 over negative 5. Now, this is not our final answer until we have it fully simplified, and you will lose points if it's not fully simplified, so make sure you always reduce your fractions. In this case, I can divide the top and bottom by 5, and I end up getting 2 over negative 1. Now, that will reduce to negative 2, but I want to just show you something about negatives and fractions quick. When you have a negative in a fraction, it could either go with the bottom number, or it could go with the top number, or it could go out in front. So those are three ways that you can write it, but usually you either see the negative, and I made this a huge negative, but usually you either see the negative out in front of the whole fraction or you see it with the top number. You hardly ever see it with the bottom number, though technically it is correct. Anyways, that does reduce to negative 2, so that's our final answer for that one. For part B, they actually have given us 2 points that a line goes through. What I want to do then is I want to use this formula, and you can just decide which point you want to have be point 1 and which one you want to have be point 2. It doesn't matter. So let's say I had this one be point 1 and this one be point 2. If you had that switched, you should still get the same answer. So I'm going to go ahead, plug the numbers into my formula. I just want to be a little bit careful here because I have a subtract sign in the formula and I also have a negative sign with my number, which makes a double negative. So just watch out for that because that happens sometimes. And a negative, subtract a negative is actually like adding. So it's 2 plus 2 is 4 on top of the fraction right now. For my x's, I got 4 subtract a negative 2, which is the same thing as 4 plus 2, so 6, and my slope for example 1b is 2/3. Again, pause at any time if you need to write this stuff down. The last one we're going to do of finding a slope is a picture of a line. So I've got an xy coordinate plane, and on this xy coordinate plane I've got a point that's at 0, -1, and I've got a point that's at -3, -3. So go ahead and draw a little sketch for yourself. I want to figure out what this slope is, and we already talked a little bit about slope being rise over run, so I want to just add to that. When I read a graph, I always read my graph from left to right, and I try to figure out from left to right, is my graph increasing or is it decreasing? The way I like to think about it is like this. I always think from left to right. So the bottom number always tells me how far right I'm going, but if it's going up and to the right, it's going to be a positive slope. If it's down and to the right, it's going to be a negative slope. This picture is up and to the right, so I know it's going to be positive, and so specifically it's going up 2 units and right 3 units. So up 2, right 3, slope is 2/3. My next example builds on this, and this one is not actually intended. Hey, and that's my dog Bailey that you may have heard me talk about. Just a second here. All right, crisis averted. It was just my next door neighbor bringing their little boy, who's 18 months old, outside to play on their swing set, but Bailey likes to protect her house, so she had to bark. All right, anyways, so this example here is not intended for you to write in your notes. I just want to talk about this positive negative thing I just described. So again, I always read my graph from left to right, and you want to just think, is this increasing or decreasing? And then I threw in the special examples that we talked about in our first video also. So for example, this graph is decreasing from left to right, so this one has negative slope, but graph B is increasing from left to right, so it has positive slope. So always looking, is it going up or down, and then to the right. Up and to the right is positive, down and to the right is negative. Just pause the video and take 10 seconds to decide what you think for C, D, E, and F, and again, you don't have to write them down. If you have unpaused, I would be happy if you had remembered that C actually has 0 slope. So a horizontal line has 0 slope. though the equation of the line is y equals a number. Just random fact, because we're going to need to talk about that a lot as we go along. So the equation of that line is y equals 1, actually. D is negative slope. E is actually undefined. Did anybody get it? Nice job if you did. And the vertical line, the equation of the line is actually y equals a number. And for F, my slope is again positive. All right, nice job on that if you got those. Our last example of this video is using rate of change. Our situation is find the average rate of change of the purchasing power of $1. And in this scenario, let's say that this is actually based on 1982. So in 1982, you have $1. This information is telling us in 1990, your $1 now only buys you 77 cents worth of stuff. So the value of the dollar has decreased. That's what happens when there's inflation. And in 2000, the 1982 dollar could only buy 58 cents worth of stuff. So they want to find what's the average rate of change from 1990 to 2000. Whenever you're given a problem like this, you first always want to make your information ordered pairs. And I'll tell you 98% of the time, your time or your date or whatever is going to be your X value. So my two ordered pairs are 1990, 0.766 and 2000, 0.581. What you would do next is you would decide which one you want to have be 0.1 and which one you want to have be 0.2, and you're going to plug the data into your formula. So why don't you pause the video quick and try it, and then when you unpause, I'll have the answer showing. As an answer, you should be getting negative 0.0185, which is approximately negative 2 cents. Now I want to say something. I don't know if anybody tried to specifically just type this all into your calculator. Don't forget your calculator does not know the correct order of operations. So for most of our calculators, you need to put parentheses around the top, parentheses around the bottom if you're going to type it in all at once. But you should be getting this as your answer. So let Mrs. Olson know if you have any questions or you can't quite get it. And negative 0.02 means that the value of $1 dropped by 2 cents a year in that time period. All right, make sure you write down any questions you have, and thanks for listening.